This podcast is part of Mishmash Media. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Welcome to another episode of Curbcast. My name is Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And we are at episode 3 of season 7, the reunion. And I'm very happy, Stephen. We get to see the core 4 from Seinfeld. Jerry. We get to see Jason, Julie, Louie, and Michael. So that was quite an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, we knew it was coming. Obviously, the Seinfeld reunion is a pretty well-known storyline, not just amongst Curb fans, but amongst Seinfeld fans. The closest thing we've ever gotten to a Seinfeld reunion ever. Probably the first time that I know of that all 4 have appeared on screen since the last episode of Seinfeld, the finale from 1998. Yeah, so great to see them in the context of Curb. I think kind of reminds me of Jerry, which is Jerry Seinfeld's fictional show in Seinfeld about himself. It just had that meta-y.
Jerry, yes.
Yeah, it kind of had that meta-y aspect to it where, you know, a show in real life that we love that made Larry David famous is now, you know, being used in Curb as the season's main plot line. Just, yeah, works in so many ways. And yeah, just great to see the core 4. And they're all kind of different in this episode. You know, they're all a bit, well, most of them are apprehensive about doing the reunion, understandably. But Jason, not George.
I was going to say, he's so synonymous with George now. You know.
Yeah, but yeah, just seeing Jason, you know, a bit more like apprehensive, or, you know, trying to describe why he doesn't think that Larry's idea for him, you know, trying to get back his ex-wife would work as a storyline. I don't know. It was done very well, and it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a good episode. It was a nice little introduction, and yeah, it's good that they're finally getting the reunion on board. But it's not for creative reasons why Larry wants this done. He's got other motives. He wants Cheryl back.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an ulterior motive, and it's all about him. He
even offers her a role as George's ex-wife, you know, just without an audition. So
I do love his little fantasy sequences as well, where they all worship him, and every idea he's had on set is fantastic, and they all love his jokes and his suggestions, and, you know, it's all just a big ruse to get Cheryl back.
It's lovely, and I love the second daydream where she's like, "Oh, Larry, I want to go home and fuck you."
Yeah, let's go home and make love.
Let's go home and make love. That's right. Yeah,
really good episode. And, you know, in typical Larry fashion, he's just doing it all for, you know, he's sort of fucking with many, many people's career and time and money and energy just for his own selfish purposes.
Indeed, yeah, I know. He's just, he's trying to put his needs ahead of others.
It was funny to me as well, you know, Jeff being his manager, obviously they're friends first and colleagues, or, you know, business partners or whatever you want to call them second. Jeff's normally pretty keen on supporting Larry's, you know, his ideas regardless of how stupid they are. But I was just thinking, Jeff he's a business-minded guy. He's a manager, you know, he's about making money and, you know, looking after Larry and getting good deals and stuff. But he's so supportive. You know, he admires Larry's plan of getting back, you know, using this whole situation to get Cheryl back. But surely the business side of him, the manager side of him, would understand that this has a lot of potential to fall apart if anyone else finds out about his true intentions. You know, the whole thing would just fall apart, which would just cost them so much money and completely blacklist them from NBC. From NBC. Sorry, I was going to say HBO.
Not quite.
You know, it's just like as a friend, I kind of get that he's supportive of, you know, you want your friend to get back with his ex-wife, so he's happy. But as a manager, it's just such a bad decision to support him in this, because, you know, there's just so much potential for it to fall apart if anyone else finds out. So I was surprised with how willing he is to go along with it. And, you know, he doesn't even advise any sort of caution towards Larry at all of like, oh, well, you know, you got to tread carefully and make sure no one finds out and da-da-da. He's just like, yeah, cool. You're a genius. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think he left his friend hat on a bit too long. He's got his friend hat and his manager hat, but I feel like he left the manager hat out to, you know, air out outside, and he's kept his sweaty friend hat on a little bit too long. Yeah. No, I think as well, I think with Jeff, like, he's kind of more focused on, he wants Larry to be happy, I mean, and like the fact that he's trying to get Cheryl back, I think it kind of bemuses him as well. He's like, you're doing this just to get your ex-wife back as well. Like, he approves. Obviously, he has a thing for Cheryl as well, as we've seen in previous seasons. And I just feel like he kind of admires Larry for having the balls to do something like this.
Yeah, I feel like Larry is, now that he's single as well, he's unleashed. You know, he was pretty good at just doing whatever he wanted anyway, but now he's got no voice of reason or no buffer at all. You know, it's just him. And yeah, I think there is some vicarious thrill on Jeff's part, because, you know, he can't do, I mean, he goes along with a lot of his dumb plans and backs him up. But yeah, Jeff has his wife, Susie, you know, who keeps him at bay a lot and, you know, keeps him in check. So I feel like Larry is what Jeff would be or close to, if he was single or if Susie left him or whatever. Yeah, so I think there is some thrill. It's supporting a friend, but it's also letting your friend off the hook, quite literally, to get some joy out of the weird shit he gets up to and all the trouble he causes.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I love how there's a meta commentary throughout the whole episode about reunions. Like reunions are seen as like a piss poor attempt at a cash grab or to kind of, ignite nostalgia or something like that. I love how that's kind of like a meta joke in the episode as well. I appreciate that. Even the Seinfeld cast, most of them are very apprehensive about the whole reunion thing. Obviously, Michael Richards doesn't know what's going on. He was too busy, looking at that erotic art in that restaurant to focus. But the others were kind of like, oh, reunions, and they have their reasons for why they don't like reunions.
Yeah, and none of them were very keen at all. And another thing I was surprised about was how easy it was for Jerry to be convinced. He said, oh, well, something, it will be lame. People will think it's lame. It's always lame. He kept on saying lame.
He did, yeah. It felt like I was watching Seinfeld, actually.
Yeah. And then all Larry had to say to get him over the line was, well, we'll just do it so it's not lame. That's it. He doesn't say how he's going to do it. He just says it won't be lame. And Jerry's like, all right, let's do it. It was just, for someone who's so adamant that it's a bad idea and just, would be really hard to convince. All it took was Larry to say, it won't be what you think it will be. And that's it.
That's it. And he wants to get on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got an email address, curbcastpod@gmail.com. We're also on social media. Curbcastpod is our handle. Check out those details in the show notes. And you can rate us or review us on your podcast app of choice, 5 stars ideally, but whatever you feel would be awesome. And it would help us with where we appear in the search on those podcast apps. So that would be awesome if you could do that. And you can support us on Patreon as well, patreon.com/mishmash media, which is the name of our fledgling podcast network. For $1 US a month, you can support us and get these episodes a bit earlier than everyone else.
Indeed. Plenty of ways to support us, financially or non-financially, whatever you prefer if you choose to do so. But we hope you enjoy this podcast, at least. That's the main thing.
That's right. And before we crack on with the episode proper, we do have a bit of listener feedback. It doesn't occur often, but...
I wasn't sure. Like, we were talking about this off air. I was like, should we mention this? But I don't know. I feel like we should probably address the feedback we've been given.
Yeah. So when we put out an episode, we promote the shows in a few Curb Your Enthusiasm Facebook groups, in which I'm a member of and also Ivan is a member of. And for the last few months, every maybe 5 or 10 episodes that I post, that I promote, a fellow Aussie by the name of John, we'll just keep it at that, pops in and decides to leave us some feedback, usually very negative and very scathing. He likes to tell us that we should give up and we don't know anything about Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Hey, even Mozart had his critics,
Exactly. We fine art and cutting edge, bleeding edge, controversial, creative work can't please everyone. So, when you're on the cutting edge like us, you're going to have your naysayers, and John is one of them.
Hey, that's totally fine. We can't be universally loved. There's even weirdos that hate Seinfeld and Curb.
I know.
So there's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, like Helen Seinfeld says, how can anyone not like you? It's true. People don't like us. So if you're listening to this, John, and I know you are because you like to tell us that we shouldn't do this podcast, which means you do listen, which is kind of strange. Yeah, hopefully you enjoy the shout out. And also wanted to say as well, a recent bit of criticism of his was that he bets that we haven't watched any episodes past whatever our latest episode is, which is entirely correct, which again proves what an idiot you are, John. So, which... the reason being is we constantly say pretty much every episode that this is the first time we're watching these episodes. So, for someone who listens and likes us and pretends to hate us as much as you do, John, you don't pay enough attention. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. And thank you for your kind words and your thorough feedback, John. We really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy future episodes. A shout out to John. We love you, mate. Canberra rules and you're fantastic.
Yeah, no hard feelings, John. Look, we do appreciate some feedback, but we are watching these fresh, so we are learning more about Larry and the Curb universe as we go along. So
yeah, No, look, I mean, obviously, I'm being a bit facetious with this little segment, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, and we are just 2 amateurs talking about Curb to a small audience of Curb fans, and that's fine. And any feedback is welcome, but when you're a total asshole about it. It's something that needs to be brought up. So no problem with any negative feedback. Just don't be a prick about it, John, because you have been.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I'm not going to comment any further. I reckon we just get on to the episode. Huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Season 7, Episode 3 of Curb Your Enthusiasm, the reunion, the one that many of us have been waiting for, if you've been following this podcast and watching the episodes along with us for the very first time. Aired in the US on HBO on October 4th, 2009. Approaching the 10-year mark, Larry and Jeff finally agreed to do a Seinfeld reunion show. However, after getting a bad set of tickets to a Lakers game, he tries to call the reunion off after offending the head of NBC, Sandy Goodman. Meanwhile, Larry hatches a scheme to win back Cheryl by casting her as George's ex-wife in the reunion. And oh boy, plenty of moving parts in this one, Steve. We got, Larry wants to do the reunion, but not for to be creative again or to get those juices flowing. He does it to want to win back Cheryl. The head of NBC, Sandy Goodman, offers him Lakers tickets, but he ends up third or fourth row from the top, which is a bit annoying. I love as well, we'll talk about it in the scene, but I love how Sandy Goodman knows that Larry's in those seats and Larry's trying to ring him.
Yeah.
And then Sandy screens the call and just lets it go. Because he knows that he's going to probably call to complain. So yeah, it's I guess we'll have to figure out a motive, why Sandy did that to Larry. I don't know. I'll probably have to theorize what happens.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when it happens.
Yes, but very, very funny. And nice little cameo by Meg Ryan as well. Right at the end there. It's good to see her. All right. A bit of trivia about the episode. This is the second time that we've seen Jerry on the show. He appeared in a wordless cameo in opening night back in season 4. So the season 4 finale, Jerry was in the audience when the producers was going totally wrong. He put his hands up in one of his trademark gestures and walks off. So this is his first speaking role. We've seen Jason Alexander in several episodes in the past, and we've seen Julia Louis in a couple of as well. So and this is the first appearance of Michael Richards in Curb, and this is after his on-stage gaffe, that really infamous one. So it was good. It was good that he came back on board after all that.
Yeah, he's popped his head up a few times since then, and it would make sense that Curb would be one of them. I imagine a lot of people probably didn't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole. Probably a bit different now because a lot of time has passed. I think 14 years, 15 years.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2007 or 8. And, this is only a couple of years after that
gaffe
you mentioned.
Yes.
So it would make sense that Larry would be someone who's willing to, give him a shot and, have him on. Although we don't support what he did, we also, I think, believe that he shouldn't be, cast asunder forever and ever and ever out of society and entertainment. So it was good that he appeared in this episode and the rest of the season as well.
Exactly. And it wouldn't make sense if they went with the Seinfeld reunion arc and there was no Michael. It just wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't work. It just would feel unrealistic. It's like, why are you doing a reunion without Michael Richards? Unless if he passed away in real life or something, and you couldn't do it.
Yeah, but then I don't think they would even do it.
No,
without one of them, it's just not the same.
No, I absolutely agree. No, I'm glad they brought Michael on, and of course, like you mentioned, just in reference to what you said, time heals all wounds, doesn't it? So sure, he had a brain fart back in the day, but he's I don't know, time heals all wounds. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sure. Like I said, you can condemn his actions, but also not condemn the man.
Indeed. But anyway, no, it's good to have all 4 of them back. I think the first time, probably since Seinfeld, all 4 of them actually appeared on screen together, whether they were Seinfeld characters or their real selves, or fictionalized versions of themselves.
To my knowledge, for sure.
Yeah. If there's been other appearances between the Seinfeld finale and this episode, let us know. But I can't think of anything as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, neither can I.
Which is good. Anyway, scene 1 of the reunion. Larry and Jeff are in Jeff's kitchen. They're talking about what happened at the end of the last episode with Loretta. It looked like Larry was getting a blowjob from another woman, and Loretta, didn't like it. And the scene literally smash cuts to her and the family going into a taxi, except for Leon, of course, who's now his housemate. So yeah, that were the events from last episode. And they're talking about what happened. And Larry was saying Loretta just said, "Fuck you, Larry," and left. And even Jeff's very surprised.
Yeah, it all kind of just kicks off real quick.
It does. Jeff says that NBC contacted him and they said that they want to do a Seinfeld reunion and they keep bothering him about it. Larry laments about reunion shows and how terrible they are generally. That's the meta commentary that I was talking about with reunions. And a lot of them can be pretty shit. I feel like, Steve, and I'm sure you could probably agree or disagree, but I feel like reunions are more like nostalgia grabs to me. Like, it just feels like actors who haven't had any big gigs or anything for a long time, they're thinking, what's something that we can do we haven't done for like 20 years? Oh, let's do a reunion show, Let's just pull on those nostalgic strings. I don't know. I feel like many times it can feel cheap, but that's just me. And I kind of agree with Larry in this situation. What about you?
Yeah, it depends on the reunion. It depends on how much I liked the original show. I feel like if Seinfeld did a reunion, it would be really hard to do it right. Obviously, it's never, ever, ever going to live up to the original, Seinfeld or any sort of classic show. There are some reunions or comebacks that I think have been done pretty well. Beavis and Butthead comes to mind. That seems to come back every decade, and it's never as good as the original, but it's not terrible. It's done the right way. And I think having so much time away and then coming back with only a season or two, is tasteful. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty cynical about them. It's usually just a cash grab or capitalizing on nostalgia, or I don't think many actors have such an urge to tell more stories with these characters that they do it for purely creative reasons. I think it might be part of it for sure. I'm sure it's fun and interesting for them as creative people to re-explore and think about what these characters would be up to 10, 20, 30 whatever years later. But yeah, for the most part it's just a money making exercise, and just to capitalize on nostalgia or opportunity or whatever it may be.
Yeah, look, I agree. Like, you made a good point saying something like Beavis and Butthead works because they come back, every, say, 10 years to do another season. But I feel like with Beavis and Butthead, it's one of those kind of shows, not to pry into this, too much, but I feel like Beavis and Butthead's one of those shows where you could bring it back every 10, 20 years and it's still relevant. Like, you've just got two dumb teenagers who are kind of understanding the world around them, but they're too stupid to understand the world around them, and they get through the shenanigans. I think you could do that anyway, whereas Seinfeld, a lot of the humor was done obviously pre-cell phones, pre-social media. A lot of the humor and the events of Seinfeld happened because of that lack of technology, and I feel like if all that technology came in to Seinfeld in the modern era, I feel like it just wouldn't hit. There wouldn't be as many like realistic events as
because a lot of what makes Seinfeld works are missed opportunities, people running late or misunderstanding things. But yeah, with mobile phones or cell phones, a lot of that just is rendered moot completely because it just wouldn't happen. Maybe from time to time, but certainly not as much as it does in Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Reunions are just simple nostalgic cash grabs, and the nostalgia doesn't usually work.
Yeah, and most of the time they're pretty much unnecessary.
Exactly, yes. Anyway, we said that, NBC kept hounding Jeff to make a Seinfeld reunion and they keep bothering him about it. Larry laments again about reunion shows, like I said. Jeff says that he will set up a meeting with NBC and he wants Larry to come along so Larry can just tell him to his face that he doesn't want to do it so they can move on with other projects. Jeff's like, I want them to hear it from you, and then that they don't want to do it so they can stop bothering me. And Larry's like, all right, that's fine.
Yep.
Susie walks in and complains about being tired and achy all the time, and she's gone to several doctors, and doctors tell her that it's all in her head. Jeff, to compliment Susie, says that she's always bubbly. Larry asks Susie if she's been in long grass recently, as she may have Lyme disease. Susie says she was in long grass, and Susie wonders how Larry knows about these things, and Larry says, I love he says Larry's a hypochondriac, and he says he's always up to date with symptoms and diseases. He's like a walking WebMD.
Like, I've never thought of him as a hypochondriac, but it makes sense. I've never... I don't know, like, he's never shown any real hypochondriac tendencies. He's obviously obsessive and neurotic, but he never seems to be that way about, like, his health, or he never seems to overreact if he gets a bit sick or injured or, if something's wrong. But it also makes sense, even though I've never seen any evidence of it.
Yeah, well, I think the most sick we've ever seen him was he had a cold in bed. I mean, the worst thing he's ever done is he died. So, that's the worst illness or, ailment he's ever had, literal death. But no, it's not often we see him sick. So yeah, that is a bit of a surprise that we find out he's actually a hypochondriac, which is...
and a self-diagnosed one as well, like, and very self-aware and sort of okay with it. He's like, well, yeah, I know this shit because I'm a hypochondriac.
He was going around calling himself WebLD.
WebLD. One letter off.
Yeah.
WebLD. Nice.
That's WebLD. That's Larry's new nickname for this episode. WebLD. You just rattle off symptoms to him and he puts it in his brain and he's like, this disease or this injury.
Yeah, it's like I get insufferable stomach pains every time I eat and it's hard to sleep. And Crohn's disease. You got Crohn's disease.
You got Crohn's disease. Yep. I've got this scratch on my finger. Cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that's what WebMD's like. You've been on WebMD, it's like, you've got this symptom. And usually it's like, it can be like something really small, but then it can be like something like full-blown cancer or something. Yeah. It's like, no, I don't think you have cancer. No, I doubt it.
Usually by the time you get to looking for what might be wrong on Dr. Google or WebMD, you're in a pretty fragile state of mind anyway, because you're starting to catastrophize. So you see the word cancer or something a bit more drastic than what you suspected, and you automatically think, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah, even though it's probably nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I had COVID at the start of the year and I got this weird thing called COVID tongue.
Oh, right.
And I'd never heard of it before. I got these lumps at the back of my tongue because I had a pretty bad throat infection.
Shit.
And I looked it up and it said, I typed in like lumps, back of the tongue, something, just the general symptoms. And the first thing that came up was throat cancer. And I thought, oh my God, I've got throat cancer. And then
it doesn't just come up like
that.
It
was like 2 a.m. as well. And I was struggling to sleep because of the sore throat. And it was hard to swallow because of these lumps at the back of my throat on my tongue. Yeah. And, when you're tired and a bit like feeling sick, you're in a pretty fragile emotional state. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. But then there was enough rational, calm part of my brain left to go, hang on, Stephen, just calm down. You can't diagnose yourself with cancer on one Google search. Just
no way.
Chill out. And then I looked at a few more search results and I found that there's this thing called COVID tongue, and it's a real thing, and it was really common, but it was just massively underreported. So
there you go. And your lumps went away, right?
Yeah, next day.
Nice.
They were just gone. It's just this random flare up, and it's it happens when you get really bad throat infections, not just COVID. It's just the infection transfers to your tongue, I guess, and then it just giant pimples at the back of my tongue.
Yeah.
And it went away. So not throat cancer. But,
no, that's good. I'm happy to hear
that catastrophizing, oh my God, it's all over feeling is pretty common.
That's why you should have consulted WebLD. He would have told you.
He would have just said,
you're fine.
I've got a feeling as well, WebLD, every diagnosis would be, you've got Lyme disease. It doesn't matter what symptoms you have. You can be like, I broke my toe, Lyme disease.
Lyme disease.
I've got massive headaches, Lyme disease.
Boy.
Yep.
Yes.
I spewed up and I think I've got food poisoning. Lyme disease.
Lyme disease. Yeah, exactly. Lyme disease. Oh, well. It's what it is.
And also Lyme disease, LD. So
Jesus. Just can't.
So WebLD is just Web Larry David or just Web Lyme disease, because again, that's the only diagnosis it'll give you regardless of your symptoms.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Figured it out.
Oh, good. Larry walks into the NBC building. He's at the reception and he spots Cheryl walking past. And they can't believe that they have run into each other again for the second time in as many weeks. Cheryl says that she had an audition as she is back into acting. So Cheryl, before she met Larry, was getting into a bit of acting before that happened. And she's kind of found her spark. Larry tells Cheryl about his Seinfeld meeting and the reunion. And Cheryl says that people would love to see a reunion. Cheryl says jokingly that he should write a part for her. And she says that she is exploring new hobbies and she loves going to see the LA Lakers basketball with her friends. Larry says that he's heading to the next game of the Lakers and they kiss goodbye. And they kiss on the mouth, which is interesting. Is that like a thing that ex-couples do? I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't like a full-on kiss or anything. It was just like a peck. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it's still quite intimate.
Yeah.
I've never kissed, as far as I can remember, any of my even close friends on the lips.
Yeah.
Like on the cheek all the time for sure, but never on the lips. Yeah. But I guess, being husband and wife, and there doesn't seem to be any animosity between them. And I guess there still is a bit of, something there. Obviously for Larry, that's definitely the case. But Cheryl doesn't seem bitter or, she seems like she's in a good spot and that she's happy to see him. So I guess with that lingering connection that's still there and, 10 years of marriage and everything they've been through and no present animosity, it's not that weird, but yeah, definitely unexpected.
Yeah, and she's doing like other hobbies like Japanese and a few other things as well, like stuff which Cheryl has never mentioned that she has any interest in. And now that she has more time because Larry, she's not with Larry anymore to quarrel, she can basically do other things and she's exploring other stuff. Like she's even going back into acting as well, which is great.
Yeah, I think she's got not only more time, but more energy. Being with Larry and putting up with his shit all the time and dealing with his stuff would be not only time consuming, but just fucking draining.
Oh, draining. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you had the time, you would just be so mentally tapped out from just dealing with his constant shit that, you might have a whole day, but you just want to sit around and do nothing just to bloody, get over the fucking drain that he is.
I know. Yeah. He's a drainer. Old LD. We know that.
Totally.
Jeff walks in as Cheryl leaves and he notices what happened and Larry explains why she was there. So she was just acting and all that stuff and they walked into each other and Jeff seems very surprised and they head to the meeting. At the meeting, the executives ask Larry when the Seinfeld reunion is happening and that they are going to give Larry and Jeff full creative control over the show so they can do the show in any way that they want. Totally fine. Larry begins to daydream about directing Cheryl in a scene of the Seinfeld reunion and they're in the famous apartment scene. And as a Seinfeld fan, I saw that and I was like, oh, they're in the actual set, the Jerry's apartment, the famous one that we've seen many, many times on Seinfeld. So yeah, it was cool that they had that same set again.
Yeah, I was watching the episode with my wife, and she asked, "Do you think the Seinfeld set still exists somewhere?" And I thought, I don't think it would be, in its like full form, but I think it would probably be broken down and just in storage somewhere to be busted out every so often when they want to film like something like this, or do like a promotional thing for Seinfeld's 30th anniversary, or when it went over to Netflix, there are a whole bunch of promo stuff. Or I don't feel like it would be fully set up, but I don't think it would have been completely destroyed either.
Yeah, and the fact that it was there, that like in full, like look, whether it was a replica set that they made or whether it was the original one, I haven't looked at the production notes about this one, but it was really nice to see. It was awesome. Like they're sitting like around the kitchen bench, and he's complimenting her in the Daydream as well about her performance and stuff. And the great thing was, so they're in the shot, and then the rest of the main Seinfeld cast, they come into the shot and approach Larry, and he critiques each of them one by one on their readings. And you think that maybe like that'll react negatively because some of Larry's criticisms are quite scathing, and they're all agreeing with Larry. So yeah, you're right. Like you said earlier, it's kind of like his fantasy where everyone listens to what Larry says and is happy with Larry's compliments or Larry's feedback. It's kind of like an unrealistic situation. I'd imagine not everyone was happy with some of Larry's direction at the time.
Oh, totally. And I think as well, like even though he's been on a bit of a cunty warpath, I think you would agree that since Cheryl's left, he's, even though he's a bit of a prick, I think his prickishness has gone up. It's gone up even another level. I think he's still obviously very broken up and fragile, and just I think feeling a bit insecure about being an older single man, having Cheryl left him. Probably hearing through the grapevine about things that she's doing and then running into him. So it makes sense to me that he's fantasizing that everyone's praising him and loving him because he wants to feel validated, because I think he doesn't have a lot in his life to validate him.
No, he doesn't, and he has to retreat into those fantasies and daydreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Larry breaks out of his daydream and he says that he will do the reunion to the delight of NBC and to the surprise of Jeff. Larry suggests a storyline where George has been divorced and he's trying to get his life back on track. And the NBC executives, particularly Sandy Goodman, the head of NBC in this universe, offers LA Lakers tickets to celebrate the reunion as they all shake hands, and everyone seems very happy. And even Jeff is a bit like you can see he's just very surprised. He's like, oh, I thought you were going to say, no, I'm not interested. But Larry's keen, but not for the reasons that he thinks in that moment.
Yeah, exactly right. Can't really say much more than that.
No, that's it. I know, it's good. Larry and Jeff are walking out of the building as Jeff is convinced that he is doing the reunion because of Cheryl and to try and get her back. And Jeff, you think maybe Jeff would say, you made some points before saying Jeff as a manager would probably be like, I don't think this is wise, Larry. If NBC catch wind of why you're doing this reunion, then we're buried, we're going to be blacklisted from Hollywood or whatever, forever. We're out of work. But Jeff is very impressed and with the plan. And I think, like I said, I think he's left his friend hat on a little bit too long, and he's left his manager hat in the cupboard for a little bit long. He should have swapped hats.
Still in the washing machine.
Yeah, that's right. Washing machine, but it hasn't been washed yet. It's just like...
Yeah, he pulled a load of washing out, but it was stuck, in the, how there's always like a sock or whatever that gets stuck in the washing machine.
That's the one. The one who hasn't left the party, yeah.
Yeah, you put 8 socks in there and you pull out 7. In this case, it was the hat. His manager hat's still at the bottom of the dryer.
At the bottom of the dryer, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, but you're right. I'm surprised that Jeff didn't go into like professional manager mode and be like, I highly advise against this. But,
yeah, because I mean, Jeff would be thinking about, if once Larry gives the green light, Jeff's responsibility is, okay, I need to get the best deal I can, the most lucrative deal, the most favorable deal, not just for me, but also for Larry. So you think that he would go immediately into manager businessman mode, but he's just, maybe he's thinking about it and he's just, he's still kind of, just catching up with Larry's agenda. But yeah, I just surprised me with how keen he was to not just surprise that he was doing it, but also supporting him, like encouraging him, really.
One surprise thing that I noticed about this scene, or the scene when they were in the meeting, there was no Jerry in the meeting. Because Jerry co-created the show with Larry and also produced a lot of like later episodes as well, like later seasons of Seinfeld. I'm surprised there wasn't a thing where Jerry was there as well.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, even though they've always been known as the co-creators and co-writers, maybe technically Larry owns the majority. Maybe he owns 60-40 or something, so ultimately it's his say. But you think at least Jerry would be there just, to give his take or just to represent himself, even if he doesn't own 50% of the intellectual property anymore. Yeah, that I didn't actually think of that, but that's a really good point.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, I just found that really interesting. It's just like, you think Jerry would be there. I don't know, it was just kind of weird, that's all.
Yeah.
Especially like he owns lots of rights and stuff.
To be fair as well, I don't think, until Larry just spontaneously said, yeah, let's do it, they didn't expect it to be a full meeting. They basically just went there to say no, just so that they would leave Jeff alone. So before Larry made that decision, there was really no reason for Jerry to be there.
Right, okay, yeah, sure.
I guess it wasn't a serious meeting as far as they were concerned anyway.
You're right, because you said the plan was to say no, but then eventually Larry had a turn, did a 180 and said yes unexpectedly. And then
there's no point Jerry being there just for Larry to say no, just so, just to sort of close the book on it.
That makes perfect sense. So, there was probably no need to have Jerry there.
Yeah. And, again, as soon as they greenlit it, he started talking to people, to Jerry and Jason and Michael and Julia, like that day or the day after or something. So it's not like he brought them in pretty quickly after. And Jerry was the first person he spoke to too.
That's right. That's in the next scene, yeah. Larry is talking to Jerry. I think it's in Jerry's office about doing a Seinfeld reunion. And Jerry says that Larry has apprehensions about reunion shows and that Larry would be judgmental of them. I love the opening shot of this scene where it's got the Rolling Stone, the really famous Rolling Stone cover. And it's got the core four and they're all like in leather, like BDSM kind of, leather kind of attire. That's pretty cool. I love how it starts from there and kind of pans out. That's a nice touch.
Yeah,
I'm guessing in that case we're probably in Jerry's office, if I had to take a guess.
Yeah, it makes sense that he would have that framed.
Yeah. I know it was famous. Yeah. Jerry says that Larry has apprehensions about reunion shows and that Larry would be judgmental of them. So Jerry basically says, Larry, you've always had issues with reunion shows. Why the sudden change of heart? So it sounds like something that they have bantered about, and it does sound like something that they might have discussed several years before, maybe like after the finale ended, maybe a few years later. I'd imagine like several years like after the finale ended in the Curb universe, I'd imagine Larry and Jerry would have definitely met up or, brought up the idea of a reunion. And, maybe at the time Larry was like, oh, no, I don't like him. Jerry might have had like a thought that maybe it's probably worth doing one, but yeah, it's always been Larry who said no. So I find it interesting. Like Jerry's just like, but dude, you never liked them. Why do you like them all of a sudden?
Yeah. I mean, if they've been harassing Larry as much as Jeff says, they've definitely been harassing Jerry as well. Probably even more so because he's got more of a public profile than Larry at this stage. So, they're probably hitting him up even more. So they've definitely had chats about it, and always just come to the decision that, we're not going to do it. So yeah, I get why Jerry's apprehensive and even a bit miffed. Not miffed, but confused. Like why the sudden... And it's not even like a slight change of mind. It's a sudden, complete 180.
That's right.
It's not like it's gone from no to maybe. It's no to let's do it.
Yeah, let's green light this thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's quite an about face. Larry says it'll be fun to get together again with the gang as Jerry is commenting on Larry's idiosyncrasies and they begin arguing. Larry says that they'll do the reunion in a non-lame way because Jerry says sometimes they can be lame. The reunion's lame. And he keeps mentioning the word lame. Yeah. And Larry says they'll do it non-lame. Jerry says he will go through with the reunion if the others go ahead with it. Jerry suggests, because after Larry suggests the George's ex-wife subplot, Jerry suggests that Meg Ryan play George's ex-wife. And Larry says that, he doesn't want to cast Meg Ryan. Obviously, he wants to cast Cheryl. He says that they'll try and cast an unknown, and that'd probably appeal more. So, yeah. Jerry's already has his immediate, George's ex-wife already in his head. Mm-hmm. Meg Ryan. And we see her later in the episode as well. Final scene, actually. Larry is chatting with Jason Alexander in a restaurant about the reunion. Larry's talking about the ex-wife subplot, and Jason says that George is an unappealing character and that no one will buy the ex-wife plot. He goes on a rant saying that George is a loser, he's a sociopath. He's just all these has all these negative traits in his personality, and he says there's no way the audience would believe he even got married. Although, to be fair, he was pretty close to marrying Susan before she died, so, he is capable of at least of courtship towards marriage.
Yeah, but that was a pretty reluctant courtship and engagement. He was constantly trying to find reasons to get out of it, and he was stoked when it was delayed by 6 or 12 months.
That's very true. Yep.
He also didn't give a shit when she died, so... I kind of get where Jason's coming from that, after all of that, how keen he was to not get married and how little he gave a shit when his fiancée died.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me that he would think that the audience wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. I just love how Jason, he's just so apprehensive. He's like, oh, I don't know this. No one's going to go for it.
Yeah.
Jason says that the reunion can be an apology to the fans of sorts for the finale, as in the final episode of Seinfeld, which has, even to this day, very divisive opinions, very mixed opinions. Some people love it, some people hate it. Larry is looking around the restaurant on the walls and he sees all this erotic art. Jason asks if he's spoken to Julia Louis about the reunion, and Larry says that he'll meet with her later. Jason agrees to get involved, and he suggests a great actress for the ex-wife role, and Larry's like, we'll think about it. Yeah. The waiter, he rattles off a couple of names, but Larry's like, we'll think about it later. A waiter brings the check, and Larry wants to coordinate the tip, and they should both leave a $12 tip. Larry asks Jason what tip he's going to be leaving. After several attempts, Jason won't tell him. Jason says he'll write a number on the piece of paper, he'll fold the paper, and put it in the check holder. As he does all these, and he gives the bill back to the waiter. Larry begins probing Jason about tipping as Jason walks off. So Larry doesn't want to feel inadequate, or he doesn't want to feel like he's under tipped or anything like that. He wants to be on Jason's level of tipping. So I actually find this a nice reference to George, because I love how there's the juxtaposition between Jason, the actor, and George, the character. George was notorious for never tipping or tipping very little, but I love how Curb Jason is a very generous tipper.
Yeah.
And I just love that juxtaposition.
And he's not only a generous tipper, he grills Larry for not being a generous tipper also.
Exactly. I just love how they kind of, they wrote Jason in this episode just to let people know, hey, Jason is nothing like George. He's like the total opposite. He's much calmer guy. He's a cool-headed guy, and he's very generous to us.
It's kind of a dig at Larry as well, because a lot of George's character is based on Larry. So by him not being George as Jason Alexander in this, he's kind of indirectly saying, I'm also not Larry David. Obviously in person right here, but also the character of, you know what I mean? It kind of works on two levels.
Yeah, it does. It does. Like I said, I just love the opposites, the mirror opposites between Jason and his character George. I just think it was good. It was good. I think it would have been really strange if they wrote Jason in this universe to be like a tight ass. I think that would have been, you're just doing a throwback to Seinfeld, because Jason's like George. But I think the writers kind of want to say, because, George is synonymous with Jason Alexander. And I'm sure everywhere Jason goes, everyone yells George lines to him, I could imagine. And it'd be annoying as fuck. So I think the writers probably wanted to give Jason a bit of leniency and be like, all right, we're going to make you your own person. You're nothing like George. So yeah, they made him a very generous tipper, we find out.
Sure.
Larry is at Julia Louis' house and they're talking about the reunion. He pitches an idea, and you'll like this one, Stephen. This is a reference to season 2 episode The Doll from Curb. He pitches an idea about Elaine having children and cutting a doll's hair and the child finding out it doesn't grow back. A nice reference to the doll.
Yeah, I do like how, much like Seinfeld, a lot of the storylines came from, Larry's younger days, I guess, especially when he was a comedian in New York, growing up in New York in the 70s and 80s and stuff. The fact that he's still, even though it's fictional in this, it still mirrors how a lot of the storylines from Seinfeld came to be.
Yeah, from quote unquote real life events in this universe, in this fictional universe. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I like how he just pictures it. And he says that Elaine would have a child, and have a family, which would make sense. We have, for those who don't know, on our previous podcast, But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character, we did bonus episodes where we wrote episodes of Seinfeld set in the modern era, in the early 2020s, late 2010s. So yeah, you can find those on our Bit of a Basket feed as well. But yeah, one of your idea was, Stephen, that Elaine would actually be married to David Puddy and they'd have a son. So,
I think if anyone was going to have a family, it would be Elaine. She seemed to be the most. I mean, none of them were very good parent material, but I feel like she would be, the closest one to be capable of being a half-decent parent.
Half-decent parent, yeah. But you came up with the idea saying that she'd be married to Puddy.
Yeah.
And they'd be in this kind of loveless, kind of marriage.
I think I came up with the idea that instead of them just breaking up and getting back together, they would get married and divorced. So it's the same.
They'd separate and then come back. They'd be like, we're separating, we're filing for divorce, and then they come back the next day.
Exactly, yeah. The same on-off, hot and cold dynamic that's always been their relationship, but a bit more serious, I guess.
Yeah, but be sure to check out our old podcast. We call those seasons Season 10 and Season 11. We wrote 2 of them. So, look, they're not the quality of Jerry and Larry, obviously, but it was just a nice, fun little fan kind of, project. It was fun. So yeah, check those out. Julia is also questioning reunion specials as they debate if the expression is champing or chomping at the bit. And it's champing at the bit. We all know that. Larry says Jason wants to do the reunion as well as Jerry, and Julia accepts for that reason. The phone rings and she goes into the other room to get it. One of Julia's daughters walks in and Larry greets her. They were talking about a birthday party that she went to, and Larry asks her about the birthday party, and she wonders what birthday party. Well, I didn't go to one. And she walks off. Larry thinks that it is, in his words, interesting. So maybe Julia was giving a bit of a white lie. Perhaps. The next day, Larry is at the same restaurant as he was with Jason, and he's with Michael Richards, as Michael is looking at the erotic art and not listening to Larry at all. He keeps looking around, and we see from his perspective Larry trying to talk to him, but it's kind of like, the sound's kind of like warbled out a little bit. I love that. And we're going from like Michael's point of view as well, like the camera's facing, Larry's face, which is good. Michael accepts, Larry, talks about the reunion and stuff, and Michael isn't listening. He accepts as he keeps looking around the room. Larry is talking, but Michael once again is not listening. Larry goes to shake Michael's hand, and Michael shakes it. He asks for the time, and Larry gives it to him. And Larry says he's happy to pay for Michael's order, as he just ordered a tea. And Michael says thanks, and he walks off. So Michael had, I don't know, he just seemed so fixated with the erotic art. So Larry was looking around just curiously with Jason, but Michael was just really, really into it. Yeah, I don't know. He's like, he wasn't even paying attention to what Larry said. I mean, is that a reflection of like the real Michael Richards? Is he just a guy who doesn't like listen or something? I don't know. It's just, he just had no idea what was going on. Yeah, Larry could have said, I'm going to bury you alive, in a park. Do you want to do it? And Michael say, yeah, sure, let's do it.
He was just consumed by, I don't know, maybe because, if we're assuming that his racist outburst happened in Curb Universe as well, maybe, he hasn't had much human contact. He's been a bit of a recluse because he's still dealing with the fallout of that. So, being in a restaurant full of people, getting an opportunity to potentially act again, kind of rework his humanity. And part of that is just getting a bit consumed by a bunch of skin pictures on the wall. Yeah. I don't know.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, Michael Richards, he's not really like a guy that we know much about. He's a pretty private guy. So
he's a pretty mysterious dude. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very mysterious. Maybe it's kind of like a play on his like mystery. Michael Richards. Yeah. It's just like he's a mysterious dude. But I just love how he pays no attention to Larry. And then Larry goes to shake his hand and Michael's like, yeah, that's fine. He just shakes his hand. He's got no idea what he's shaking about, but yeah.
Yeah, he's just completely consumed by the tasteful artistic nudity.
That's right, the black and white like nudity, yes. Lots of body parts everywhere. The same waiter from yesterday returns, and Larry asks how much Jason Alexander tipped him, and the waiter says he doesn't share that information. I love how this episode has very subtle like references to Seinfeld episodes.
Yeah.
The jacket from Seinfeld, when George keeps persisting to Jerry, how much did it cost? $200. Jerry says nothing. $500, $800, $1,000. I love how like Larry keeps coming up with figures. Like, did he give you $12? And he doesn't say anything. He's like, yeah. And then he kind of says, he tells the waiter to give hand signals to indicate like if it's this and this and this. But I love how Larry keeps like raising like the amount, and then the waiter kind of reluctantly implies that this is what Jason gave. At the end of everything, and Larry's just completely shocked. The waiter implies with hand gestures instructed by Larry that Jason gave him a $30 tip as he walks off, and Larry is just stunned. I like how it was like a subtle reference to Seinfeld as well.
Yeah, so I didn't pick that up, but it is good.
Yeah, very, very subtle, but yeah, I like Larry just keeps raising the stakes and he gets more shocked as the waiter just keeps going higher and higher and higher. But it's more, like indirect, with hand signals rather than like, George with Jerry's jacket, just screaming out numbers. It's not quite like that. But yeah, I love that dynamic, how it just keeps building and building and building until it reaches like a zenith. It's great. Outside Staples Center at the Lakers game, Larry tells Jeff that all of the gang are up for the reunion, and Jeff is very happy. Jeff confirms that Susie actually has Lyme disease, and he thanks Dr. David for saving her life. And Larry likes the name Dr. David. Larry spots Cheryl with her friends. He leaves Jeff and he goes up to Cheryl. Cheryl breaks away from her group and meets with Larry. He tells Cheryl about the reunion and that he wants Cheryl to play George's ex-wife. She's very happy about the offer and she hugs him and kisses him on the mouth once again. As she walks off, she's giddy. She's very happy. She's got a part, in Seinfeld of all things, which is incredible. She's very happy. Hey, look, if we ever got offered, a role in some kind of show, we'd be wrapped too. Like I'd be ecstatic. No audition. It's like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah, straight to the front of the line.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen and Ivan, we want to do a Beavis and Butthead live action TV show. Are you interested? What are you trying to say, dumbass?
Yeah.
This is cool. That'd be cool. We can just watch music videos and critique them in the Beavis and Butthead style. That'd be rad.
I'd do that anyway, yeah.
Yeah. You just watch YouTube videos and you just comment.
Exactly.
Larry and Jeff are getting their tickets at the ticket booth, and Larry tells Jeff about how happy Cheryl was with the offer for the role. They look at their tickets and they're not sure about the seats. They wonder where they are. The scene cuts to the duo being right up the top of the Staples Center, like 3 or 4 rows from the back. It's like ridiculous, like near the wall. They're annoyed about their tickets, and Larry's wondering why they got these tickets, like what prompted Sandy to book these ones. Jeff asks a nearby person for his binoculars. He looks through them and he spots Sandy Goodman, the NBC producer, and David Spade, and they're sitting in courtside seats where they were expecting to be. Larry tries to call him on his cell phone and he doesn't answer the phone, or Sandy doesn't, I don't mean. Sandy screens the call and Larry goes off at Sandy to Jeff because he screened his call and didn't answer. He doesn't want to know. And I love how Sandy's like looking in Larry's direction and like glaring at him, and he doesn't even answer his phone. So there's I don't know, he seems to be pretty upset about something. Maybe we'll find out later what it could be, but yeah, he seems, despite that really positive meeting, Sandy doesn't seem too happy with Larry for some reason.
Yeah, he's done something.
He's done something wrong.
Maybe he's just upset at Larry because it's taken him this long to make a decision or something. I don't know.
Or maybe he's caught wind that he wants to hire, like, oh, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, well, and for those, like I said, for those who don't know, we're watching these episodes for the first time. We don't really know what happens later in the season. So please bear with us. You're probably like screaming at us as you're listening to us, like telling us what happens. But I suspect that maybe Sandy, this is my theory as we haven't watched future episodes. I've got this theory that maybe Sandy talked to Jerry, and then Jerry's like, I want Meg Ryan to be this person, but then maybe, you know, but then maybe he's like, oh no, Larry said he wanted Cheryl, his ex-wife, to be in the role, and maybe Jerry's like, no, but I want Meg Ryan, and maybe they had like an argument or something, and then Sandy would rather someone like Meg Ryan, someone like A-list, than someone like Cheryl. So maybe he's a bit salty about that. I don't know. That's just a guess, but I'm sure we'll find out later what the problem is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. We'll find out, but yes. For those screaming at us, you know, through your podcast, you know, app, sorry. we don't know yet. This is all a surprise for us. Larry and Jeff are outside the Staples Center after the game. They spot Sandy as Larry walks up to him. Sandy asks Larry if he had a good time. The scene cuts to Jerry at Jerry's office asking Larry why he told the head of NBC to go fuck himself. I love how it just cuts before Larry says anything. Like he's saying a couple of lines, but then you don't see that part. That's so fucking good. I can imagine Larry went absolutely ballistic. Julia and Jason are in the room as well, and they can't believe what happened as well. Larry explains what happened with their seats. Jason can't believe what Larry did. Jerry says that NBC, in his words, are apoplectic about what happened. They're just like livid. They're considering cancelling the reunion. They're like that angry. Julia confronts Larry about implying that she lied about her daughter going to a birthday party as well. So Larry has got all these issues, and then Jason also presses Larry about tipping at the restaurant as well. So they've got their grievances that Larry's done to them as well. Larry explains the inconsistencies in Julia's story, and he says that it's very interesting. And she reminds Larry that she took her other daughter to the birthday party. Not the daughter that she met, and he goes, interesting. Everyone's arguing to Larry and getting angry at him. So a total opposite to his daydreams where everyone praises him for, you know, just walking through the door.
Yep.
Michael Richards walks in and he wonders what's going on. And they're like, oh yeah, we're talking about the reunion episode of Seinfeld. And Michael has no idea what he's talking about. You know, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Jerry's like, you didn't tell Michael? You know, everyone's saying you didn't tell Michael about the reunion? What's going on? Michael says he's very happy to go ahead with it. And the others wonder why Larry didn't tell him about it at all. Jerry says that the project might be shelved because of Larry's actions at the stadium, and Jerry says that you have to apologize to Sandy, Larry. You have to. And Larry's like, all right.
Yep.
You told the head of NBC to go fuck himself?
Yeah, I did. The guy says he's gonna fix me up he puts me up in the rafters, the worst seats. It's crazy. And then I caught the asshole screening my call.
So you crap on the head of the network? What are you doing?
He's apoplectic. Apoplectic, Larry.
That kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. Yeah.
You want to know what else is unacceptable? It is totally and completely unacceptable that you would grill my daughter Gracie about whether I took her to a birthday party, and then you Call me a liar?
Oh, okay, first of all, I didn't really grill her. I just asked a question, and I didn't call you a liar. I just said it was interesting.
Jeff and Larry having a chat, and Jeff says that he has to apologize to Sandy. Larry says that he will give a begrudging apology. Jeff says it has to be a sincere apology. Larry decides to meet him in the middle and do a part sincere and part begrudging apology. Jeff reminds Larry about Cheryl, and that's the reason why he's doing the reunion, as Susie walks in. Larry subtly reminds Susie that he diagnosed her illness, and he subtly asks her to thank him for it, and they both begin to argue. Susie says, I don't need to thank you. You know, you didn't. Larry says, I saved your life. And Susie's like, you didn't save my life. Larry says next time she has something that he'll say nothing about Susie's health. Oh, you see that spot on you? That could be skin cancer. Don't get it checked. He just says stuff like that. She gets very angry and yells at him to get out. It's great. Susie's like, they're just like yelling at each other. I think Susie's one of the only people in Larry's life where Larry just goes like all in on her, you know, just like let's rip. She's like one of the only people in his life. Would you agree?
Yeah, they kind of do that to each other. Like she just gives it to him and he gives it to her straight back.
They just turn it up to 11, both of them. Larry is at NBC. He's apologizing to Sandy for what he did. And Larry says that this is as sorry as he will get. And he doesn't feel sorry at all. He asks Sandy if he was sorry enough. And Sandy says it was a very begrudging apology. So Larry leant more to like the begrudging side of the apology. Sandy says he wants to put a kibosh on their relationship and that the reunion is off. Larry wishes him all the best as Sandy's assistant walks in with his medicine. Sandy tells Larry his symptoms as Larry asks. Larry asks if Sandy has been in tall grass. Sandy says yes, and he asks why. Larry says, no reason. So he's not going to tell him about his potential Lyme disease. The scene cuts to Larry walking down a hall and realizing that he may have made a mistake as he daydreams about another reunion rehearsal, just him and Cheryl in the same apartment scene. And Cheryl says she wants Larry back and she wants to make love with him. Larry has another daydream where he's at Sandy's funeral, open casket funeral. He looks at Sandy's cadaver and he just shrugs. So these are like the two scenarios. So this is like what would have happened if I told Sandy that he might have Lyme disease. Scenario one would happen. What would happen if I didn't tell him? He'd die of Lyme disease, and he'd be like, he wouldn't have a reunion, Larry. He'd be like, whatever. Shit happens.
Yeah.
He flips a coin. He decides to go back to Sandy to tell him about his potential illness. Larry's on the phone in his car to Jerry saying that the reunion is back on. Jerry's wondering what he did, and Larry said, he pulled a few strings. So it's implied that Larry suspected he did his what I call web LD and possibly told Sandy he had Lyme disease and maybe got confirmed. Yep. And Sandy felt happy and brought the reunion back. So there you go.
Yep. He kind of felt that wrong had been righted.
Yeah. And they got another reunion. So he literally saved Sandy's life.
Yeah. Is Lyme disease terminal though? I know it's like debilitating and like it can be massively horrible, but does it kill you?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think if you don't treat it, it can be. But I think if you get treatment and you get diagnosed, I think you can have treatments to alleviate it, or maybe even be cured of it. I think if you left it for too long, it might, but I'm not sure exactly.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure. I have to Google it. I'm not WebLD, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Don't go Dr. Ivan, okay? Please. Go see a medical professional for any ailments. Curbcast are not responsible for your health, okay?
Exactly.
Jerry is next to his car and he's with Meg Ryan. And Meg says that he says that Meg Ryan will play George's ex-wife. Meg is on the phone and she thanks Larry for the casting as Larry has a shocked face. The scene ends, the episode ends, and the Curb theme plays. And that's the end of the episode.
Indeed.
Out of 5 Larrys, I give this one 3 out of 5, Stephen. It was enjoyable, but yeah, it was a nice little setup episode for the big arc that's going to happen in season 7, culminating in the actual reunion in the season finale. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm the same. 3 out of 5. I liked a few aspects. I didn't really dislike anything. Like there was nothing I can really criticize.
No, same here. Yeah, I didn't dislike anything. I just felt like it was, an enjoyable enough episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, same as you.
Yeah, it was all just pretty good.
Pretty good.
Amazing. I did like, my favorite part was the smash cut when they were like, "You told the head of NBC to go fuck himself." Like,
Jerry.
that was my favorite part.
Yeah, that was great.
Overall, just pretty good, and yeah, good setup episode, like you said, and yeah, excited for things to come.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be a very, very good season. Well, next week's episode, the hot towel, no mention of the reunion. Well, a little bit of a mention, a reference, but nothing to progress that storyline, which is interesting. interesting. I guess having a bit of a break in the lead up to the next episode, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's pretty common with Curb where a season-long storyline dips in and out pretty drastically. You know, it'll be a full episode and then nothing for 2 episodes and then, you know, really prominent again. It's not just a little bit every episode.
Yeah. So it's one of those episodes where it's just like, it feels like a classic Curb episode, you know, like first couple of seasons, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to reviewing that one with you. That was Curbcast. Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate your support, your feedback, positive or negative. Any other correspondence, we totally appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy the podcast. You can listen to us on any of the podcast services, Apple, Spotify, any of the independent ones as well. Curbcast, give us a look and tell all your friends and family who might like Curb Your Enthusiasm about us. And we'll try and get this podcast out to as many Curb fans as we can. We'd love to spread the message. My name's Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
And we'll catch you next week for The Hot Towel, episode 4 of season 7. And you take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is part of Mishmash Media, an independent podcast network. Follow us on social media at Mishmash Media AU or support us on Patreon. All those links are in the show notes.